welcome to another exciting, hair-raising, fun-filled, expeditious episode of Radiorama, where, as the name implies, I'll show you how to work on radios, consoles, record players, stereo systems, stuff like that. And today we have a 1940 General Electric model J-709 record player slash combo radio. Now, I know what some of you guys are thinking. This looks like it's in really bad shape, which it is. That's not the original record player. We've got some trim pieces here. We've got some veneer coming loose. And the story is that this came in a few months ago, and the owners said they wanted it restored because it's a family piece. It's been in the family since it was new. I can't remember who they said it belonged to, whether it was a father or a grandfather. It's not at all particularly valuable. In fact, it probably is almost valueless. This style of console, this era, is not highly sought after. The replacement record player further detaches or detracts from its value. But you know, there's a huge difference between value because it's sentimental and value just because of the sake of it being valuable. And in many cases, an item that's been in the family that has sentimental value is priceless, so it doesn't matter what it is. And I think about a lot of the things that are in my house. I have a lot of pieces that belong to my grandparents. I've got like a butter dish. I've got some dishes. I think I've even got some old syringes that belong to my grandfather, who was a vet. And they're precious to me. I would never get rid of them. They're priceless to me. And so that's the same deal with this guy. And so I'm going to try to do my best to restore it reasonably well. We're going to retain the original record player. Obviously, at some point, someone stripped this down. They might have even replaced it with this piece of veneer. This looks like it mismatches. I'll try to at least glue that back down. The cord is completely shot on it. I don't know where that came from. Looks like the tuning string is coming off. This is a Magnavox record player. This is probably from the 1960s. So someone must have kept it in the family. Well, it's still in the family, but someone used it for a very long time, because that means that 20 years later someone stuck a record player in it. The grill cloth is missing. It's completely torn out. It has a permanent magnet speaker, so that means if this guy's bad, which it doesn't seem like it is, it's not rubbing, then it could be replaced with another 12-inch speaker, no problem. The first things first is I'm going to remove the chassis. That's going to involve pulling the knobs, and then I think what I'm going to do is get some towels and lay it down on its front or on its side. Let me see how this is. I'm going to lay it down on its front, and then I can pull this chassis out. I'm going to have to be a little careful because it does have a sheet of asbestos underneath the chassis, and you really don't want to get that stuff airborne. It looks like that you can remove the chassis in one piece via this wooden piece here. I think what I might do is take this radial antenna out, make sure everything is disconnected. And I say lay it on the front. I used to be stupid and like try to, take it out with it standing straight up like this, and that would just kill my back, and it's unnecessary. So I'm going to get some towels so I don't damage the front any more than it already is. Lay it down, and then they'll pull the chassis out. Okay, well, that was relatively easy. All came out in one piece. So now that I'm looking at it, I'm thinking this might be a hot chassis. Well, I don't see any power transformer unless it's inside, which you usually can tell if it's hot chassis by seeing what kind of tubes are in it. If they're 12-volt tubes, it's a good indicator it's probably hot chassis. That's a 6-volt. 25. Okay, well, we got two of those 25 L6s, so that's 50 volts right there. Is this a 25 L6 too? 25 Z6. Dual rectifiers? No, that's a 6-volt tube. What is this guy? Okay, so we got two 25Z6s, which is two rectifiers, and then a 25 volt output. So that's 75 volts right there. So 75 plus 12 is 82, plus another 12. I'm not good at math. Yeah, it's probably a hot chassis. Now, we need to remove the asbestos, and there's some people out there that are scared to death of it. There's some people out there that think it's not a big deal. The answer is somewhere in between. Yes, it stuff is dangerous. If you get where it's dangerous is if you get the stuff airborne, because it will, once you get a piece of it in the air, it'll stay airborne for days because it's that fine. So the idea is you want to keep it damp, and also try not to disturb it if you can help it. There's, looks like 4 bolts, and originally they held this together. So I'm gingerly going to remove those, and then lift this off the asbestos, and then soak the asbestos, put it in this plastic bag and seal it up. And you should not throw it in the garbage. And I'm saying this because what happens? The garbage men come and pick it up. They rip the bag open, the stuff gets in the air, and they unknowingly breathe some of it in. It's not very responsible. You need to take it to your local hazardous waste processing facility. I'm pretty adamant about that. I have a 5-gallon bucket that I keep little packets in. Someday I'll have to take it out there. But you just want to keep it out of the air, out of the environment. Well, my suspicions were correct. It is a hot chassis set, and it's had some work done to it. This is not the original electrolytic. That's probably about the same era as that record player. And then we've got some 50s or 60s era caps here. The caps here that have the single color band, those are actually Mylar. Those are okay, so we can leave those alone. But these guys, these minty colored ones, those are old-fashioned paper caps. And so is that one. The problem area is going to be replacing the electrolytics, because this has some of that awful pre-World War II, and I mean pre-United States entering the war type rubber insulated wiring that shatters if you look at it. Now here is the asbestos sheet. I did soak it. I wanted to soak it all the way through, and I'm going to gently pull these staples out, then fold it up and put it in that bag, and then we won't have to worry about the asbestos anymore. Alright, so let's get down and dirty. I was really hoping this was not going to be one of those pre-war sets with that wiring, but it is, so grin and bear it. It is a floating hot chassis, you can tell, because this is the underside of the electrolytic, and you see it sitting on a phenolic wafer. The can, the outer skin of the can itself is its ground. And we can see that the ground probably and invariably, yeah, you can see here's ground, goes to there, goes to there, and goes to the end of this capacitor right here, and that goes to chassis. And so that is a way to alleviate having this be a true hot chassis. Meaning, if you just had one end of the line going, the AC line going to chassis, if you were to touch something metal, as in the record player, and touch ground at the same time, then you could get jolted really bad. I'm also looking here, and this cap is probably the across the line cap. It's on one side of the AC, and it is split in half. So we'll need to replace that, obviously, which makes me think that I'm wrong about my earlier assessment. Those are probably not Mylar. Those are probably paper caps. So that needs to be replaced along with every single one of these. So what's probably going to happen is as soon as I start moving any of this wiring, it's going to shatter. And so I'll have to replace the shattered wire with new bits and pieces. So it's a pain in the butt, but it's got to be done. And there are 3 values. There are 3 electrolytic capacitors in here. There's a 20 and 240s rated at 250 volts. I don't have any 250 volts. I have 450 volts, which is fine. Your voltage needs to be at or greater, and if it's more, then so much more power to you. This is a laughably small output transformer for that big speaker, but it probably works. You don't need that much power. So I'll start with the electrolytics and replace the across the line cap, and then we'll bring it up to see if it works. Oh yeah, I probably should replace this guy too. This guy's probably hosed. And I said I thought it was a replacement. That sure seems like... I think that's factory. I think I'm wrong. Alright, well, ran into my first snag, which I was looking at the schematic because I wanted to determine which value cap went where. And it said, I was looking at the connection to the 25C6. And there's a 25L6 tube in here. I know that's the output tube. And so I looked it up. And they're electrically similar. They're just beam power tubes. And there is a reference online. I found an old book from like the 40s. And it says that they're compatible. So I'll just bring it up slowly. But anyway, I think I avoided something. I haven't never seen a 25C6. It's a weird tube. Okay, well that took a lot more time than I thought it was going to. Everything I touched in here just shattered. So I wound up having to replace a lot of wiring. Also, for some indescribable reason, the previous repair person had left this resistor here, the one that is now bolted to the chassis, floating in the air. And that includes one end of the power cord. We have our across the line safety cap there, and then we have 3 new electrolytics, and I had to replace a few caps that are now buried underneath them. I know it's not the prettiest looking thing, but it's functional. So now the next thing I need to do is bring it up and see if it works. Okay, it's time to try it out. I have everything hooked up. I have my Variac with amp meter on it. I'll measure amperage first. Let's see, volts, only about 40 volts. Not pulling anything. I wonder if it's even on. Well, that is not promising at all. There's no pilot lights in here either. I guess I can't really... Let's see. Is it pulling anything? It's not pulling anything. So... it's not turning on. That said the switch could be fouled up. Let me do some quick checking here. All right, let me do some diagnostics. Okay, well, it is not coming on. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to oil up the switch a little bit, and then I'm going to be very suspicious about that resistor. The other thing, I need to confirm whether the pinout on that 25C6 or 25L6 is actually the same as 25L6. But regardless, I'm not getting any B+, so I don't think there's nothing happening. Okay, it's not going to work right now because one section of that wire round resistor, which is that metal guy up against the chassis, is open. And I believe what that probably is probably a dropping resistor, because when I tallied up all the tube voltages, I was not quite adding up to 110 volts, so that's probably knocking that down a little bit. But this 33 ohm section is okay. This section right here, which is 20 ohms, is open. In fact, you can tell it's actually, it's physically damaged, so that wire is shorted out. In fact, I wondered because I could see the wire down there. So I'm going to have to find the 20 ohm resistor, replace that guy. Rats! I looked through my supply and I don't have those values in the wattage that I need. And plus, I'm going to have to make a terminal strip, because I don't trust the other guy, because this is already damaged. I'm not sure what's going on inside that thing. So what I'm going to need to do is get a terminal strip and mount two big guys like that on there. But I don't have these in my collection, so I'm going to have to go tomorrow and get some more. So I think I'm going to end it for the evening. Okay, now it's time to install the transplant. I went to the museum this afternoon, got some resistors to replace this guy. So I've already lifted it off at the bottom of the chassis. I'm just going to transfer the components from that to this. I've got 3 sections to attach to here, here, and here. Alright, so I've got the transplant installed. Hopefully I did it right. So I know if I did it wrong, because if I start turning this up and... Well, it's drawing something now. It wasn't drawing something yesterday at all. Let's see. Where's my voltage here? 20 volts. Still not getting any filament. Like I said, maybe that pilot light is burned out or something. Yeah, we're not doing anything bad here, so... It's about right. I don't hear buzzing. I don't have any antenna hooked up either. Well, I'll need to hook up the antenna, see if it's going to pick up anything at all. But while I have it turned off, let me see if anything's getting dangerously hot here. And it's not. It's just a little warm. It's to be expected. Alright, I've attached the antenna, so let's let her rip. It didn't blow up. Alright, we got pilot lights for once.
ਕਰਦੇ ਆ ਕੀਰਤਨ ਵਿਆਹ ਹੋਆ ਮੇਰੇ ਬਾਬਲਾ ਤੇ ਪਰ ਸਭ ਤੋਂ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਸੌਰੀ ਆਪਾਂ ਇੱਕ ਗੱਲ ਭੁੱਲ ਗਏ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਪੱਲਾ ਫੜਾਇਆ ਆਪਣੇ ਇੱਕ ਕਾਲਰ ਨੇ
Life's hardest places.
Do you struggle a lot?
COPD. This serious lung disease can make it so hard to breathe. You often can't catch a breath or finish a sentence.
Information network.
A little triple Lindy wearing his old town number, diving into the New York Jets pool. We all know he's filled with riptides everywhere. You have no idea.
Sounds pretty damn good, so I think we may have fixed the problem. So, with that said, now comes the very exciting task of replacing the rest of those paper capacitors. Okay, so it's now time to replace the rest of the capacitors. We have this guy, this guy, this guy, this guy, that guy, that guy, that guy, that guy, and that one up here. So there's still quite a bit of recapping to do, and but I think the hardest part of the project's been done, which is taking care of this rat's nest here. So I'll get busy replacing the rest of these guys, and then we'll test again and make sure it's still working, because if it doesn't work, that's going to be really sad. Okay, so the rest of the caps have been replaced. I'm not concerned about the tone control caps. There's no voltage on those guys. But I am going to hook it up and make sure it all still works. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and test it. And it may or may not work. I just noticed that this knocked over my beer can and put a little hole in the speaker, but that's okay. I can fix that. So, let's crank it up. And we have filament.
People is for the second straight game, Aerial Powers came off the bench in Minnesota, and let's be honest, like the Lynx are buns. Like they were up on the.
All right, works good. So we're pretty much done with the recapping. Let me clean up my mess over here, and I'm going to call it quits for the evening. All right, welcome to the next day working on the General Electric, and like I said, I finished this guy. clean the chassis, even though no one's going to see it. I just like doing that. And what I decided to do is go ahead and prepare the front for new grill fabric. I happen to have a large quantity of this stuff, and so I'm going to measure it out, iron it, clean this off, and apply. It's got a pattern in it. It'll look a little bit better. And the other thing that I might do, depending on how it's attached, just feeling underneath here. What is this? Is this plastic or metal? It's metal. I'm going to see if I can cut out a piece of plexiglass so that I can replace the window that's broken out of here. I also want to see what kind of condition this record player is in. I might have one of our other volunteers work on that because I'm not the record player guy. I can do it. He's a lot better than I am. And need to find a way to re-adhere this. I think I'll just put some glue underneath it and then clamp it down. It looks like it's just in the front here. Makes me wonder, is this new? Is this like a replacement piece of veneer? Kind of looks like it. It looks like the rest of the finish might be original. So I think this has been refinished under here. It looks like it's been touched up over the years. It seems to me like this is a well-loved piece. It's been used a lot. So no wonder it means a lot to the family to have it redone. All right, so I'm going to measure it out. Actually, I already measured it out and I cut it. And then we'll need to iron it out to make sure it's nice and flat. And then we'll glue it on. All right, so I know a lot of people know how to iron, but I'm a recent learner of ironing. But what you want to do is usually put down like a towel or something underneath and put your piece there, get your iron. I put it on steam. And just kind of want to go over it. You don't want to hover too long, you'll burn it. And Lord knows this plastic-based cloth will melt real easily if you're not careful. But we want to get all the little wrinkles and creases out of it. You see already we've made a huge amount of progress. Just a little bit more here, and there, and maybe a little bit there. Then we'll do the same thing with the bottom part, and then we'll make sure and clean all the fuzzies and stuff off of that piece of plywood, and we'll glue it down. Alright, so I've ironed the cloth and now I've put a little glue on the board, and I'm not going to film me putting it on here because I need to align it, but then I'll show you how to smooth it out. Alright, so we've got the grill cloth installed, and what you want to kind of do is after you've got it glued down, you want to kind of tug at the corners like this, always going outwards, and then we'll make sure that it's going to be a nice tight fit. That seems like it's doing pretty good, so let's see, what do we got going on here? Put that out in the sun and let it dry. Okay, now it's time to address the cabinet here. Looks like they tried to use contact cement. I'm just going to fill it in with wood glue and use a whole bunch of clamps to clamp that down. Alright, well, I used just about every clamp I have because the entire top was coming off. Excuse me, so now it's all glued back together. Actually, I need to clamp that down too. Guess I'll have to find another one. This thing was a mess. Anyway, I'm going to remove this escutcheon so I can get to the back of it, so I can see if I can take measurements for the plexiglass replacement lens. These days I have a duck problem. So usually the ducks are gone by this time of year, but these guys are sticking around and I don't want to feed them anymore. And I figured they'd get the message and stop coming, but they keep on coming in my garage. And they're so used to me now. Alright. You gotta go, Miss Duck. Go back outside. Go back outside with your buddy. Or male friend. Go on. Get. Alright. So, I pulled the escutcheon out of this guy, and it's fascinating. It's plastic. And I thought, well, maybe this is a reproduction, but it says February 31st, 1940, so it's original. But what I need to do is measure a piece of plexiglass that can fit in this space here. Did you come back in here? Come on, get out of here. I do this because they poop a lot. You too. All right, come on. All right, stay outside. I know you're hurt. Your feelings are hurt, but you got a lot of food for me this year. Go make eggs. All right, so now that I've got my piece measured out, I'm going to use a straight edge and a fresh box cutter blade, and you score it. I've tried to cut this stuff with the saw, and all it does is melt. It's kind of gross. Then again, I should have known better. I'm ignoring you. Go away. Poor ducks. Be careful. I've cut myself really badly doing this, so make sure that you take your time. Don't push down too hard. You'll slip. Okay, so here's the piece I cut out. And it fits just fine. We just need to buff it up a little bit. I've had this piece of plexiglass for 20 years, and it's gotten scratched up over the years. So I'm going to use Novus number 2 to remove the scratches and install this and put that back in the cabinet. Alright, well, I got the glass / faux glass back in. I put a little dabs of glue on the other side so it won't move around. That looks very believable. I'm going to clean this up a little bit, but not too much, because again, that is... Got to hand it to General Electric. They sure found a way to cheapen everything. Fake metal. It's probably metallic paint. But then I'm going to proceed to do some cleaning on the wooden cabinet. Kind of want to get this done this week. Got a lot of projects coming up that I need to attend to, but I'll get this done. All right, the next step is I'm going to clean the cabinet, and I haven't opened this bottle yet. I use it on every single episode. It's Old English. I'm not sure why they call it Old English. I guess it's supposed to denote fine antique furniture. But anyway, it says nourishing mineral oil. I don't know what's in it, but it works really well. Does it say what's in it? For ingredients information. I'm not going to go there and look at that. But anyway, whatever's in it is good. I'm not sure if it's good for humans, but it sure is good for furniture. And what I like about it is you can take kind of tired old finishes like this and kind of rejuvenate them, even though the finish is actually in pretty good shape. Also, I'm trying to get a hold of the owner. I'm going to see if maybe we can retrofit this with a period correct record player, or if, I don't know, if it's sentimental, if his granddad put that record player in, maybe not. But so I'm going to go over the whole thing with this, and it doesn't seem like it has much of a finish on it. I was going to consider waxing it. I don't know if I want to do that. I'm kind of wondering, after we have this, has this been refinished? I mean, it wasn't a bad job. I think I can see some brush strokes here. Looks like there's some touch-ups here, so probably I can't wax this because we'll see. Whatever. All right, so here's the Old English. I just douse a rag with it, and I know it looks like crude oil, Texas crude, but it does a great job on this stuff. You can see how it's kind of bringing back some of that color. Yeah, I think this thing was refinished. The way that the stuff is reacting, I think all I'm doing is covering up scratches that were made after it was refinished, which is good. You know, you still want it to look pretty nice. Some of the wood is actually in fairly good condition. Make sure and get into your little nooks and crevices and stuff. Just gonna go over the whole thing just like that. And then I think after that I will do an assessment for the wax. I don't think it's going to need it. It's been refinished, so I'm not going to acquire. I only use wax on original finishes to clean up all the grime, and since they were a natural finish, you could enhance the sheen. Mrs. Duck. Dun. All right, so welcome back to the next day. this all glued down nice and flat. So now what I'm going to do is reinstall the grill cloth, but before I do that, I'm going to burn some holes going through the screw holes, because if you don't do that, you'll just have like screws poking through the grill cloth and you can rip it. Alright, so I got the grill cloth installed. While I'm under here, I'm going to pull the record player. It's got these strange clips. I've not seen these before. Makes me wonder if someone made these or something. Let's see. Yeah, these look homemade. Trying to pull them off. God damn, they're on there good. Alright, there's one. Do the rest for all the other two. Alright, so I pulled the record player out. There's a Magnavox Micromatic. I forget who actually makes it. I think it might have been Garrard. It's pretty late. We got some plastic cogs. Seems like it's moving somewhat easily. Alright, so what I need to do is clean all this up. What I think I'm going to do is I'm going to take it outside and use some carb cleaner to clean some of that gunk off of there. Alright, so now what I'm going to use is some carb cleaner. Let's use it to clean all the gunk and stuff out of there. I'm going to kind of work this back and forth a little bit, see if that's going to move a little easier. It's moving somewhat easier. You know what I find works better on this actually for some reason is gum out. Not gum out. What am I trying to say? This product called Seafoam for basically degunking your engines. So I'm going to get some of that. Alright, so now I'm going to lubricate some of these little joints with a little Zoom spout oil. I don't know what they make this stuff out of, but it sure works good. It's basically going to get everything that moves. Just a little bit of oil, because we want everything to move nice and smoothly, especially the record changer. Alright. I'm not going to do it while I'm filming all of it, because there's a lot of places to get at, but you get the idea. Alright, welcome back to what probably is the last day of working on the General Electric console. And I started on the turntable and then handed it over to one of our other members, Kyle, and he got it perfect. And so now I'm going to reinstall it into the cabinet, which, by the way, now I have new grill cloth on the front. And so I'm going to put it down on top of these floaty springs. Also reattached the escutcheon here. Sorry, the lighting's not very good today. We've been having strange weather. It's been like gray all day. But anyway, besides the weather, let me put the record player back in here, and then I'll put the chassis for the radio back in. I'm going to let it rip and see what happens. Okay, so it's finally all back together again. Record player works good, the radio works good. We have our new nice plastic lens here. New grill cloth. The top is fixed. And we got the guts back in. All right, let's shift over to radio.
174 tackle.
So effective, in May, he was quickly moved to becoming a starter with
49ers during the 2021 season. Meanwhile, one of the leading...
All right. Anyway, hopefully this will bring back some good memories to the owners and remind them of their grandparents. All right, guys, I know this was kind of a long, stretched out episode, but Sometimes when I get an heirloom piece like this, I want to spend a little extra time on it. But thanks so much for watching, and until the next time a radio comes across the workbench, I'll see you guys next time. Adios.